There are a number of different types of psalms as you see as you go through. There are psalms of lament, there are songs of trust, there are wisdom psalms, and there are also a number of psalms that talk about how God is revealed in nature. And we see that in psalms like Psalm 8 that talks about how when I look at the heavens, the work of your fingers, the sun and the moon and stars that you have established. And we see it also in Psalm 19 and in Psalm 24. The earth is the Lord's and all who live in it. We see it in Psalm 29 and Psalm 104, our psalm for today, is in its entirety a hymn to God as the creator of the universe and of the world. And it's very specific. It begins very large with how you are clothed with honor and majesty, wrapped in light as with a garment. You stretch out the heavens like a tent. You set the beams of your chambers on the waters and make the clouds your chariot. It begins very large, but it gets very detailed in talking about nature and about the valleys and the hills and how God provides drink for every living thing. And the verse of the day is verse 24. O Lord, how manifold, how many are your works. In wisdom you have made them all. The earth is full of your creatures. That verse inspired a hymn about all God's creatures, great and small. Some of you may know it. But again, throughout the psalm, it talks about animals, it talks about birds, it talks about plants and cattle and even badgers or conies, and how everywhere we turn our eye, we can see the creative power of God. And of course, it talks about the sea, the ocean, that those of us who live on Cape Cod can readily relate to, and how there are creeping things innumerable there. We would say like lobsters and crabs and many other things, and talking about the ocean. And then as the psalm continues, it talks about how every living thing looks to God for food and for nourishment, and how amazing is it that God has created this world and this remarkable interdependent web of life, which we as human beings have seriously disrupted and are seriously disrupting in a number of different ways. And we need to do a better job nurturing and caring for God's creation. That is for sure. In Romans chapter 1 and verse 20, Paul, in beginning to introduce himself to the church in Rome, also affirms, ever since the creation of the world, his eternal power and divine nature, invisible though they are, have been understood and seen through the things he has made. It's long been a saying that creation is the first word of God. It is older than the written word of God, and it's the first testimony to the presence of a creator who stands behind all of life. Today, as you go about your day, keep your eyes and your ears open to the evidence of God all around you and God's manifold works.